Hello, my good friends. How are you today? May God bless you all. I will not introduce anything. You guys watch the video and feel it. Then let's evaluate together. The Chicago skyline glittered like a diamond necklace against the velvet night. The city's pulse humming below, high above it all in Nia Bennett's penthouse in the heart of the loop. The air was thick with heat, and something far more electric. The sleek glass walls of her apartment opened to a sprawling balcony, where a hot tub bubbled under the glow of soft LED lights. The faint strains of John Coltrane's saxophone drifted from a Bose speaker weaving through the summer breeze. Malcolm Hayes stood at the edge of the balcony, his dark skin catching the city's glow, his broad shoulders tense but alive with purpose. At 35, he was a man who'd fought for every inch of his life, and tonight, he'd won a battle he never saw coming. Across from him, Nia Bennett leaned against the railing, her deep brown eyes locked on his. Her natural curls were loose, framing her face like a crown, and the silk robe she wore clung to her curves, hinting at the power and vulnerability beneath. At 38, she was a force, a black woman who'd built an empire from nothing but. Right now, she was just Nia and he was just Malcolm. "You did it, Hayes," she said, her voice low, almost a purr. She stepped closer, the scent of her jasmine perfume mixing with the steam rising from the tub. "You took down Damian Walsh. I didn't think anyone could make that bastard blink." Malcolm's lips curved into a slow, dangerous smile. "Wasn't just me, Nia. You handed me the weapon." His voice was gravelly warm, the kind that could talk a woman into trouble or out of it. He closed the distance between them, his calloused hand brushing her arm. "But I'm not here to talk about him." Her breath hitched, but she didn't pull away. "Then why are you here, Malcolm?" He didn't answer with words. Instead, he cupped her face, his thumb tracing the line of her jaw. Their eyes held for a heartbeat, then two, and then he kissed her. It wasn't soft or tentative. It was hungry, raw, a collision of two people who'd been dancing around this moment for too long. Nia melted into him, her hands gripping his shirt, pulling him closer as the kiss deepened. The world, the city, the war, they'd just fought, the stakes they'd faced faded away. She broke the kiss just long enough to tug at his shirt, her fingers deft as she unbuttoned it, revealing the hard planes of his chest. "You sure about this?" she whispered, her voice trembling with want and something deeper, something like fear. "Never been surer," Malcolm growled, his hands sliding down her waist, pulling her against him. The silk of her robe slipped to the floor, pooling like liquid moonlight, and she stood before him, unapologetic in her beauty. He lifted her effortlessly, carrying her to the hot tub, the warm water enveloping them as they sank in. Steam curled around their bodies, and Nia's soft moan mingled with the jazz as Malcolm's lips found her neck, her collarbone, her everything. Their movements were urgent but deliberate, a dance of need and trust. Her nails dug into his shoulders, his hands anchored her hips, and for a moment, they weren't a mechanic and a CEO weren't two black souls fighting a world that tried to keep them down. They were just them, lost in each other, the water rippling with their rhythm. When it was over, they stayed tangled in the tub, her head resting against his chest, his arms wrapped around her. "You make me believe in impossible things." "Nia," Malcolm murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. She tilted her head, her eyes soft but fierce. "And you make me remember I'm worth loving." They sat there, the city humming below the stars, winking above, and for the first time in years, Malcolm felt like he was exactly where he was meant to be. But to get here, it all started on a dusty Chicago road with a broken-down Mustang and a woman who turned his world upside down. 3 months earlier, the summer sun beat down on Chicago's South Side, turning the asphalt into a skillet. Malcolm Hayes wiped sweat from his brow, his grease-stained hands leaving a smudge across his forehead. At 35, he was a man built for hard work. 6 feet of lean muscle, with a jawline that could cut glass and eyes that held stories he didn't tell. He'd grown up in Englewood, dreaming of designing cars that would change the game. But life had other plans. After his wife Aisha died in a car accident 5 years ago, and a string of bad investments tanked his savings, Malcolm found himself back in the neighborhood running Hayes Auto, a small garage that barely kept him and his 9-year-old son Jaden afloat. The garage smelled of motor oil and burnt rubber, a familiar comfort. Malcolm tightened a bolt on an old Chevy pickup, the radio playing Miles Davis's Kind of Blue. His silver ring, a keepsake from his late mother, glinted under the fluorescent lights. He was in the zone when Trey Brooks, his best friend and part-time wrench turner, poked his head through the door. "Yo, Malcolm, you got a sec?" Trey 36 was all swagger. Dreads tied back a loud Hawaiian shirt and Air Jordans that screamed, "I used to race cars and I'm still cool as hell." He grinned. "Got a roadside call on Lakeshore Drive. Some fancy car broke down and the driver's probably some rich type who don't know a carburetor from a cappuccino machine." Malcolm groaned, tossing a rag over his shoulder. "Man, I'm up to my elbows in this truck. Can't you handle it?" "Nah, this one's got your name on it," Trey said, tossing him the keys to their beat-up tow truck. "Sounds like a classic. You know, you can't resist." Malcolm sighed, but grabbed his toolbox. Trey wasn't wrong. He had a soft spot for vintage rides. He hopped into the truck, the engine coughing to life, and headed out Lakeshore Drive, stretched along Lake Michigan, the water sparkling under the sun. A few miles down, he spotted it, a 1967 Mustang fastback, its sapphire blue paint gleaming like it belonged in a museum. The hood was popped, steam rising, and standing beside it was a woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. Nia Bennett was a vision, tall, with smooth mahogany skin and natural curls pulled into a high bun. Her silk dress, a deep emerald green, hugged her curves, and her Louboutin heels were wildly out of place on the gritty shoulder of the road. She wasn't pacing or panicking like most stranded drivers. Instead, she stood with her hands on her hips, staring at the engine, like she was about to negotiate a deal with it. Malcolm parked the tow truck and stepped out, his work boots crunching on the gravel. "Need a hand?" he called, keeping his tone easy. Nia turned, pulling off her sunglasses to reveal eyes that hit him like a punch. Deep brown, sharp, and somehow familiar, like they'd seen the same kind of fight he had. "I'm guessing you're the mechanic," she said, her voice smooth, but with a Chicago edge, like she'd grown up in the city before the world made her a queen. "Something like that," Malcolm said, setting his toolbox down. "What's the deal with this beauty?" She sighed, brushing a stray curl from her face. "Started sputtering a few miles back then. Just quit on me. Barely made it to the shoulder." Malcolm leaned over the engine, his hands moving with the ease of someone who'd been under hoods since he was a kid. The Mustang was pristine, no rust, no half-assed repairs. Whoever owned it cared. He checked the battery, the spark plugs, then spotted the issue, a loose fuel line. "Easy fix," he said, grabbing a wrench. "You're lucky it didn't strand you out in the burbs." "Lucky's not the word I'd use," Nia muttered, crossing her arms. There was a weight to her words, like she was carrying something heavier than a broken car. He worked in silence for a minute, tightening the line and checking the fuel pump. There was something about her, not just the designer clothes or the way she carried herself, but the way she watched him, like she was sizing him up, not just his skills, but who he was. "You from around here?" he asked, more to break the quiet than anything. She hesitated, like she was choosing her words. "Grew up in Bronzeville, but I don't get back much, just passing through." "Damn shame," Malcolm said, glancing up with a half-smile. "Not many folks around here roll in a 67 fastback. Would have been cool to see this thing cruising the streets." Her lips twitched the first hint of a smile. "You're a Mustang guy, huh?" "Hell yeah," he said, tightening the last bolt. This ain't just a car, it's a legend. You got good taste. Something flickered in her eyes. Curiosity, maybe respect. And what about you, Mr. Mechanic? What's your story? Malcolm wiped his hands on his jeans, standing to meet her gaze. Just a guy who fixes cars, raises his kid, nothing as exciting as driving a classic through Chicago traffic. She studied him like she was peeling back layers. Then she extended a hand. Nia Bennett, Malcolm Hayes, he said, shaking it. Her grip was firm, confident, not the handshake of someone used to being underestimated. Try starting it now, he said, nodding toward the car. Nia slid into the driver's seat, her movements graceful but deliberate. The key turned and the Mustang roared to life, its V8 purring like a contented lion. She exhaled a tension he hadn't noticed slipping from her shoulders. "Well, damn," she said, stepping out. "I owe you one. Just doing my job," Malcolm said with a shrug. She reached into her purse, pulling out a sleek leather wallet. "How much?" He glanced at the car, then back at her. Something in her eyes made him pause. Expectation maybe, like she was used to people taking what they could get. He shook his head. "Took me 10 minutes. Not worth charging for." Nia blinked like he'd just spoken a foreign language. "You serious?" "Dead serious," he said, packing up his tools. She stared at him, her expression unreadable, then slipped her wallet back into her purse. "Well, Malcolm Hayes, I appreciate it." She pulled out a business card, gold embossed with the words, Apex Motors. "If you ever want a real challenge, give me a call. We could use someone like you." He took the card, his fingers brushing hers. "What, you hiring tow truck drivers now?" Her smile was full on now, sharp and knowing. "Something tells me you're more than that." She climbed into the Mustang, revved the engine and pulled onto the road, the car's taillights disappearing into the haze. Malcolm stood there, the card in his hand, a strange feeling settling in his chest. Something told him this wasn't the last he'd see of Nia Bennett. Back at Hayes' auto, the evening was quiet, the air heavy with the scent of gasoline and steel. Malcolm wiped down his tools, his mind still on the woman in the Mustang. Trey sauntered in, tossing a soda can into the trash. "You've been quiet since you got back, man." "What's up? Another rich lady with a flat tire?" Malcolm smirked, shaking his head. "Not exactly. She knew her car, though. Tried to figure out the problem before I showed up." Trey whistled. "A woman who drives a '67 fastback and knows her shit. That's rare." He leaned against the workbench. "So what's her deal?" "Said she's just passing through," Malcolm said. But the words didn't feel right. He pulled out the business card, turning it over in his hands. "Nia Bennett, CEO, Apex Motors." The name rang a bell. Something about a big-shot automotive company downtown. Trey snatched the card, his eyes widening. "Apex Motors. Yo, that's the outfit. Making waves with custom classics, and she's the CEO. Damn, Malcolm. You didn't just fix her car. You got scouted by royalty." "Chill, man," Malcolm said, grabbing the card back. "She was just being polite." "Polite my ass," Trey said, grinning. "She gave you her card, didn't she? Bet she's already planning to roll up in a limo and whisk you off to some fancy office." Malcolm laughed, but the idea stuck. He slipped the card into his pocket, his fingers brushing the silver ring on his hand. Life had a way of throwing curveballs, and something about Nia Bennett felt like the start of something big. If you're already hooked on Malcolm and Nia's story, don't miss what's coming next. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single chapter of this wild ride. Drop a comment below. Do you think Malcolm's gonna call Nia, or is he sticking to his Southside life? We want to hear your thoughts. Malcolm Hayes leaned against the workbench in Hayes' auto, the dim glow of a single bulb casting shadows across the garage. The air smelled of motor oil and steel, a familiar comfort, but his mind was miles away, stuck on a sapphire blue Mustang, and the woman who'd driven it. Nia Bennett's business card sat on the bench, its gold-embossed letters catching the light. Apex Motors CEO. He turned it over in his hands, the weight of it heavier than paper should be. It had been 2 days since their roadside encounter on Lakeshore Drive, and Malcolm still couldn't shake the feeling that Nia's offer wasn't just a polite gesture. Trey Brooks, his best friend and resident loudmouth, had been hounding him non-stop. "Man, you're sitting on a golden ticket," Trey had said, waving the card like it was a winning lottery stub. But Malcolm wasn't so sure, leaving his Southside garage, his routine, his life with Jaden. It was a gamble, and he'd lost too much to bet on long shots. The phone rang, shattering the quiet. Malcolm glanced at the caller ID, an unknown number with a Chicago area code. His gut told him who it was before he even picked up Hayes. "Auto. This is Malcolm," he said, keeping his voice steady. "Mr. Hayes, this is Marcus Tate from Apex Motors," a smooth, professional voice replied. "Ms. Bennett asked me to reach out. We'd like to invite you for an interview tomorrow morning at our headquarters in the Loop positions for a manager in our classic restoration division." Malcolm's grip tightened on the phone. An interview for a manager gig. He'd fixed Nia's Mustang in 10 minutes. Sure, but that was a far cry from running a division for a company like Apex. "I appreciate the call, but I'm not sure I'm your guy," he said, his tone cautious. "I'm just a small-time mechanic." Tate chuckled, unfazed. "Miss Bennett seems to think otherwise," she said, and I quote, "Malcolm Hayes has hands that can talk to cars and a mind that sees what others miss." Her words, not mine. "Can you make it at 10 a.m.? Malcolm hesitated, glancing at the business card. Jaden's face flashed in his mind. His 9-year-old son, who deserved more than a dad scraping by. "Yeah," he said finally. "I'll be there." "Great. We'll send you the details." The line clicked dead. Malcolm set the phone down, his heart pounding. Trey, who'd been eavesdropping from the doorway, let out a whoop. "Hell yeah, man, you're about to level up." He strutted in his Air Jordans, squeaking on the concrete, a grin splitting his face. "What's the gig? They making you CEO already?" "Manager Classic Restoration," Malcolm said, still processing. "Some downtown outfit. Sounds too good to be true." Trey snatched the card from the bench, waving it dramatically. "Yo, Apex Motors ain't just some outfit. They're the ones restoring $1-million Ferraris for rappers and tech bros, and their CEO, your Mustang lady, is a damn legend. You gotta take this shot." Malcolm rubbed his temples. "What about Jaden? I can't just upend his life for some corporate crapshoot. And this place." He gestured around the garage, its cracked walls and flickering lights. "It's all we've got." Trey's grin softened. "Man, you're the best dad I know. But Jaden needs to see his pops chasing something bigger than oil changes. You used to design cars. Malcolm, you had dreams. Don't let this pass you by." Malcolm didn't argue, but Trey's words stuck. That night, he tucked Jaden into bed, the kids' room cluttered with sketchbooks and toy cars. Jaden looked up, his brown eyes wide. "You okay, Dad? You seem weird." Malcolm forced a smile, ruffling his son's hair. "Just got a big decision, lil man. Might be a new job." Jaden's face lit up, like building cool cars. "Like you used to tell me about." "Maybe," Malcolm said, his chest tightening. "We'll see." The next morning, Malcolm pulled up to Apex Motors headquarters in the Loop, a sleek glass tower that screamed money. His beat-up Chevy truck looked like a stray dog among the Teslas and Benzes in the parking lot. He'd swapped his usual work boots for a clean button-down and his least-worn jeans, but he still felt like an imposter stepping into the polished lobby. The receptionist, a young woman with a headset and a smile too bright for 10 a.m., led him to an elevator that shot up to the 30th floor. The doors opened to a garage unlike anything Malcolm had ever seen. It wasn't a garage. It was a damn cathedral for cars. Glass floors revealed a showroom below where a cherry-red Porsche 911 gleamed. LED lights pulsed along the walls, and robotic arms hummed assembling parts with precision. A 3D printer whirred in the corner, spitting out a custom gear. Malcolm's jaw dropped. This was the kind of place he'd dreamed of as a kid, sketching designs in his Englewood bedroom. Marcus Tate. A wiry black man in a tailored suit greeted him with a firm handshake. "Welcome to Apex. Mr. Hayes." Ms. Bennett's waiting in the conference room. Malcolm followed his boots, echoing on the glass. The conference room was all mahogany and floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of the Chicago River snaking through the city. Nia Bennett stood at the head of the table, her presence commanding the room. Gone was the roadside silk dress. She wore a charcoal Tom Ford suit. Her curls swept into a sleek updo. She looked like she owned the damn world. "Because she did, Malcolm." She said, her voice warm but professional. "Glad you made it." "Didn't have much choice," he said, half smiling. "Your guy's pretty convincing." She gestured to a chair. "Sit. Let's talk." Tate slid a folder across the table. "The positions for head of our classic restoration division. You'd oversee a team manage high-end projects. Think vintage Jaguars, Lambos, the works, 6-figure salary, full benefits and access to tech you won't find in any Southside garage." Malcolm's stomach flipped. 6 figures. That was life-changing money. New school clothes for Jaden, a better apartment, maybe even college savings. But something didn't add up. "Look, I appreciate the offer, but I never applied for this." "Why me?" Nia leaned forward, her eyes locking onto his. "Because I saw you work. That Mustang wasn't just a fix. It was art. I checked your background, Malcolm. You won a design award at UIC before life got in the way. Talent like yours doesn't belong in a corner garage." He shifted, uncomfortable. "So this is what charity—" Her brows lifted, a flash of irritation crossing her face. "Charity? No. This is business. Apex needs someone who can feel a car, not just fix it. You're that guy." Before he could respond, the door opened and a man strode in, his presence like a storm cloud. Damian Walsh was everything. Malcolm wasn't. White-polished, dripping with privilege. His tailored Brioni suit probably cost more than Malcolm's truck, and his smile was sharp enough to cut glass. Malcolm recognized him from business magazines. Damian Walsh, tech mogul, Nia's ex-husband, and a guy who thrived on making others feel small. "Am I interrupting?" "Damian," said his tone, suggesting he didn't care if he was. He glanced at Malcolm, his eyes narrowing. "You must be the new project." Malcolm's jaw tightened, but he kept his cool. "Malcolm Hayes." "And you are?" Damian's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Oh, you know who I am." He turned to Nia. "Really?" "Nia, a roadside mechanic. This is your plan to save Apex." Nia's expression was steal Malcolm's here because he's the best. "Unlike some people, I don't waste time on ego trips." Damian chuckled, but it was cold. "Cute. But let's be real. This little experiment of yours is going to crash and burn. And when it does, don't come crying to me." He leaned closer to Malcolm, his voice low. "Enjoy the ride while it lasts. Hayes." Malcolm met his gaze, unflinching. "I'm not here for a ride. I'm here to work." Damian's smile faltered just for a second before he straightened. "We'll see." He walked out, leaving a trail of tension in his wake. Tate cleared his throat, trying to reset the room. "So, Malcolm, any questions about the job?" Malcolm exhaled, his mind racing. Damian's words stung, but Nia's faith in him burned brighter. "Yeah," he said, looking at her. "When do I start?" The next week was a whirlwind. Malcolm took the job, starting as manager of Apex's restoration division. The transition was brutal. The team, mostly older white guys with decades in the game, didn't exactly roll out the red carpet. Reggie, a grizzled lead technician with a thick Boston accent, was the toughest nut to crack. "You might have impressed the boss lady," Reggie said, tossing Malcolm a wrench, "but around here you gotta earn it." The first test came fast. A 1963 Corvette Stingray worth $500,000 was misfiring, and Reggie claimed it was too delicate for a rookie. Malcolm didn't blink. He dove under the hood, his hands moving like they were born for it. Within an hour, he'd adjusted the carburetor and rerouted a faulty wire. The Corvette purred like a kitten. Reggie raised an eyebrow. "Not bad, Chicago. But don't get cocky." The real problem wasn't Reggie. It was Erica Stone, Damien's assistant, who'd somehow wormed her way onto Apex's staff. She was sharp with a knack for subtle sabotage. During a team meeting, she accidentally leaked that Malcolm's hiring was part of a diversity push, planting seeds of doubt. Whispers spread. "He's just a token. Nia's playing favorites." Malcolm overheard two techs muttering in the break room, and it took everything not to confront them. Instead, he channeled it into the work. He stayed late, poring over blueprints, learning Apex's cutting-edge tech. The 3D printer baffled him at first, until he accidentally printed a tiny gear, and Trey, visiting one day, cracked up, "Man, you building Hot Wheels now? This place is too fancy for you." "Shut up," Malcolm laughed, tossing a rag at him. But Trey's visit reminded him why he was here, not just for himself, but for Jaden, for the life he wanted to build. One evening, Malcolm was finishing up when Nia appeared in the garage, her heels clicking on the glass floor. She'd swapped her suit for a fitted leather jacket and jeans, looking less like a CEO and more like the Bronzeville girl she'd once been. "Burning the midnight oil?" she asked, leaning against a workbench. "Trying to keep up with your high-tech toys?" Malcolm said, wiping his hands. "This place is a lot. You're doing better than you think," she said, her eyes softening. "Reggie doesn't just nod at anyone." He smirked. "Yeah. Well, I'm still waiting for the welcome party." She laughed, a sound that hit him harder than it should have. "Give it time. You're not what they expected, Malcolm." "That's a good thing." He studied her, the way her confidence masked something deeper, something guarded. "And what about you? Why are you betting on me for real?" Nia's smile faded just a fraction. "Because I know what it's like to be underestimated, to have to prove yourself every damn day no matter how good you are. I saw you with that Mustang, Malcolm. You didn't just fix it, you understood it. That's rare." Her words landed heavy, and for a moment neither spoke. Then she straightened, tossing him a set of keys. "Come by tomorrow, I've got something to show you." "What, another broken car?" he teased. She grinned already, walking away. Something better. That night, Malcolm sat in his apartment, Jaden asleep in the next room. The business card was still in his pocket, a reminder of the line he'd crossed. Damien's warning echoed in his head. Enjoy the ride while it lasts. He didn't trust the guy, but one thing was clear. Taking this job meant stepping into a fight he hadn't asked for. Still, as he looked at Jaden's latest sketch, a futuristic car with Dad's design scrawled on it, he knew he couldn't walk away. Not now. Nia Bennett had lit a spark, and Malcolm Hayes wasn't about to let it burn out. The Napa Valley sun dipped low, painting the rolling vineyards gold and crimson. Malcolm Hayes stood on the sprawling lawn of Nia Bennett's estate, a glass of Cabernet in his hand, feeling like he'd stumbled into someone else's life. The mansion behind him was a masterpiece of stone and glass, with ivy climbing its walls and a pool that seemed to spill into the horizon. A garage off to the side housed a trio of classics, a Ferrari 250 GTO, a Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud, and of course Nia's sapphire blue 67 Mustang Fastback. This wasn't just wealth, it was a whole other planet. Malcolm, in a borrowed linen shirt and jeans, looked out of place next to the manicured hedges and marble statues. At 35, he was used to grease-stained coveralls and the hum of his South Side garage, not sipping wine that probably cost more than his rent. But Nia had insisted he and Jaden come for the weekend, a thank you for saving a critical project at Apex Motors. Malcolm wasn't sure what to make of it, or her, but the way Jaden's eyes lit up when they pulled up made it worth the trip, Dad. This place is like a movie. Jaden, his 9-year-old son, bounded across the lawn clutching a sketchbook. His sneakers were already grass-stained and his grin was wider than the valley itself. Can we live here like forever? Malcolm chuckled, ruffling his son's hair. Slow down, lil' man. We're just visiting. But it's got a pool, Jaden said, pointing. And cars. Did you see the Ferrari? It's like the one you drew when I was little. Yeah, I saw it, Malcolm said, his chest tightening. Jaden's excitement was a reminder of why he'd taken the Apex job, why he was stepping into a world that felt too big, too fast. For his kid, he'd do anything. A laugh floated over from the patio where Nia Bennett stood with Zoe Carter, her best friend, and a lawyer who could probably talk a judge into buying her lunch. Nia looked different here, away from the steel and glass of Apex. Her white sundress flowed like she was part of the breeze, her curls loose and catching the sunlight. Zoe, in a bright yellow jumpsuit and oversized sunglasses, was gesturing wildly, probably telling one of her stories. Malcolm caught Nia's eye and she waved him over. Yo, Hayes, Zoe called, her Harlem accent thick and playful. Get over here before I drink all this wine myself. Malcolm grinned, nudging Jaden. Come on, let's go hang with the fancy folks. The patio was set for a feast. Linen tablecloths, crystal glasses, and plates of soul food that made Malcolm's mouth water. Fried catfish, collard greens, and cornbread that smelled like his mama's kitchen. Nia had insisted on a menu that felt like home, a nod to their shared Chicago roots. Malcolm settled into a chair, Jaden plopping down beside him, already eyeing the mac and cheese. So, Malcolm, Zoe said, leaning forward with a mischievous grin. How's it feel going from fixing beaters to running Apex's garage? You got a corner office yet? Malcolm laughed, shaking his head. Man, I'm still figuring out how to use their 3D printer without breaking it. Corner office is a long way off. Give it time, Nia said, her voice soft but sure. You're already turning heads. Yeah, like Reggie's, Malcolm said, smirking. Guy looked at me like I stole his lunch when I fixed that Corvette, Zoe cackled. Reggie's just mad. You're younger, hotter and better with a wrench. Keep it up and he'll be calling you boss for real. Jaden piped up, his mouth full of cornbread. Dad's the best at fixing cars. He's like a superhero but with tools. Nia smiled, her eyes warm. I believe it, Jaden. Your dad's got magic in those hands. Malcolm felt a flush creep up his neck. Not sure if it was the wine or the way Nia's gaze lingered. Zoe caught it, raising an eyebrow. Oh, I see what's happening here, she said, sipping her drink. Y'all better behave or I'm gonna start planning a wedding. Zoe, Nia hissed, but she was laughing her guard down in a way Malcolm hadn't seen before. The afternoon rolled on, lazy and golden. Jaden hyped up on lemonade, begged to explore the estate's golf cart. Nia handed him the keys with a wink. Just don't crash it, okay? I'm a pro, Jaden declared, hopping in. Malcolm followed, half expecting disaster. Sure enough, Jaden took a turn too fast, sending the cart skidding toward the patio. It clipped a table, toppling a pitcher of iced tea and a tray of biscuits. The crash echoed and Jaden froze his eyes wide. Oh man, I'm so sorry, he yelped, jumping out. I just wanted to be cool like Dad. Nia burst out laughing, waving off the mess. Kid, you're fine. I once spilled a whole bottle of Merlot on this patio. Takes more than a few biscuits to ruin my day. Malcolm helped clean up, shaking his head. You're too chill about this, Nia. Most folks would be freaking out. She shrugged, her smile teasing. Life's too short to sweat the small stuff. Besides, Jaden's got style. I respect the hustle. Jaden beamed and Malcolm felt a warmth settle in his chest. Nia wasn't just a CEO. She was real grounded, someone who could roll with a kid's chaos and make it feel like a party. That evening, after Jaden crashed out in one of the mansion's guest rooms, Malcolm found Nia in the library, a cozy space with leather-bound books and a massive Kehinde Wiley painting dominating one wall. She was curled up on a velvet sofa, a glass of wine in hand, staring out at the vineyard. The moonlight spilled through the windows, catching the curve of her cheek. "Mind if I join you?" Malcolm asked, leaning against the doorframe. She glanced up, her smile soft. "Only if you bring your own glass, I'm not sharing." He grabbed a glass from the bar, pouring himself a splash of Cabernet. "This place is unreal," he said, settling onto the sofa. "You ever pinch yourself, wondering how you got here?" "All the time," she said, her voice quieter now. "I grew up in Bronzeville." "Malcolm. My dad was a bus driver, my mom a nurse. Nobody handed me anything. Every step I had to fight, especially as a black woman in this game. People still look at me like I don't belong." Malcolm nodded, the words hitting close. "I get it. Back in Englewood, I was the kid with big dreams and no shot. Got into UIC, thought I'd design cars that'd change the world. Then life happened. Aisha's accident, bills piling up, dreams got buried." Nia's eyes softened, searching his. "But you're still fighting. That's why I brought you to Apex. I see myself in you, Malcolm. That hunger, that fire. You're not done yet." Her words stirred something in him, something he'd buried deep. He set his glass down, leaning closer. "And what about you, Nia? You're out here running an empire, but what do you want? Not the CEO stuff, the real shit." She hesitated, her guard flickering. "I want to stop running. To feel like I'm enough, not just for the world, but for myself." Her voice cracked just a little and it broke something in him. Without thinking, he reached for her hand, his fingers lacing through hers. "You're more than enough. You hear me?" Her breath caught, and for a moment they just sat there, the air thick with unspoken things. Then she leaned Dottie. She leaned in, closing the gap between them. Their lips met slow and tentative at first, like they were testing the waters. The kiss deepened her hands, sliding up his chest, his fingers tangling in her curls. It was soft, searching, a quiet promise of something real. But just as it started to heat up, Nia pulled back, her breathing uneven. "Malcolm," she whispered, her eyes searching his. "I want this. I want you. But I'm scared. I've been hurt before. I don't know if I can do this again." He cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. "I'm not going anywhere. Nia, I'm not him. But we don't have to rush. I'll wait as long as it takes." She nodded, her eyes glistening. "Thank you." They sat there, hands still entwined. The silence comfortable. Now Malcolm felt it, the shift, the turn in the road. This wasn't just about a job anymore. It was about them. The next morning, back at Apex, Malcolm was under the hood of a '69 Dodge Charger when he overheard two techs whispering. Heard Stone's been cozying up to Walsh. One said, "She's feeding him dirt on the Mustang project." Malcolm's blood ran cold. Erica Stone. Damien's assistant was sharper than a tack, but he hadn't pegged her for a mole. He confronted her in the break room, keeping his voice low. "You playing both sides, Erica?" Her eyes narrowed, unflinching. "You're in over your head. Hayes, Damien doesn't just want to win. He wants to destroy Nia, and you're making it easy for him." Malcolm's fists clenched, but he held back. "Tell your boss he's barking up the wrong tree. Nia's tougher than he thinks." Erica smirked. "We'll see." Malcolm found Nia in her office, a sleek space with a view of the Chicago skyline. She was poring over blueprints for the Mustang redesign. Her brow furrowed. "We've got a problem," he said, closing the door. "Erica's leaking info to Damien. He's coming for the project." Nia's jaw tightened, but her voice was calm. "I figured he'd try something. He can't stand losing." "So, what's the play?" Malcolm asked. She looked up, her eyes fierce. "We go big. The Miami auction's in 2 weeks. We roll out the Mustang, make it a game changer. If we pull this off, Damien's got nothing." Malcolm grinned, the challenge lighting a fire in him. "Then let's build a damn car." The Chicago wind howled through the loop, rattling the glass walls of Apex Motors headquarters. Inside the high-tech garage, Malcolm Hayes was elbow-deep in the guts of a '67 Mustang fastback, the same one Nia Bennett had driven when they first met. The car was no longer just a classic. It was Apex's secret weapon, being rebuilt with a hybrid engine and sleek modern touches for the Miami auction. Sweat beaded on Malcolm's brow as he adjusted a fuel injector, the hum of the 3D printer in the corner, a constant reminder of how far he'd come from his Southside garage. But even with the tech and the stakes, his mind was elsewhere on Nia, on Jaden, and on the shadow of Damien Walsh looming over them all. It had been a week since the Napa Valley trip, and the memory of Nia's kiss in the moonlit library still burned in his chest. They hadn't crossed that line again, not yet, but the air between them crackled every time they were in the same room. Malcolm wanted to believe they could build something real, but Damien's threat delivered through Erica Stone hung heavy. "He wants to destroy Nia, and you're making it easy for him." Malcolm wasn't naive. Guys like Damien didn't play fair, and Apex was a battlefield. "Yo, Hayes, you gonna stare at that engine all day, or actually fix it, Reggie?" The grizzled lead technician called from across the garage. His Boston accent was thick, but the grudging respect in his tone was new. Malcolm had earned it one wrench turn at a time. "Keep your shirt on." "Reg." Malcolm shot back, grinning. "This baby's got a purr like Coltrane's sax by Miami." Reggie snorted but nodded, tossing him a rag. "Better hurry. Word is the suits upstairs are getting antsy." Malcolm wiped his hands, his smile fading. The suits were Apex's board, and they weren't thrilled about Nia's gamble on the Mustang, or on him. Erica's whispers about Malcolm being a diversity hire had spread, and now the garage buzzed with tension. Some techs still eyed him like he didn't belong, and every mistake felt like a spotlight. He pushed the thought aside, focusing on the car. Miami was their shot to shut everyone up. The blow came that afternoon, not in the garage, but on the front page of the Chicago Tribune. Malcolm was grabbing coffee in the break room when he saw it, a tablet screen flashing a headline that stopped him cold. Apex Motors new hire talent, or token CEO's cozy connection raises questions. Below it was a grainy photo of him and Nia on the rooftop of Apex, caught mid-conversation, her hand brushing his arm. The article didn't name sources, but hinted at a romantic entanglement and questioned Malcolm's qualifications, calling him a small-time mechanic with no corporate experience. Malcolm's stomach twisted. He'd faced doubters his whole life growing up, Black in Englewood scraping by after Aisha's death. But this was different. This was public personal and aimed at both him and Nia. He stormed to Nia's office, the tablet clutched in his hand. She was already there, pacing her tailored blazer discarded on a chair. Her curls were pulled back, her jaw tight. "Zoe." Carter sat on the edge of the desk, scrolling through her phone, her yellow jumpsuit, a stark contrast to the room's tension. "You saw it," Malcolm said, tossing the tablet onto the desk. Nia didn't look up. "Damien's work. He's got friends at the Tribune. This is his opening shot. Opening shot." Malcolm's voice was sharp. "This ain't a shot. Nia, it's a damn grenade. They're calling me your side piece and you a reckless CEO. The board's gonna eat this up." Zoe glanced up, her sunglasses perched on her head. He's not wrong, Nia. My phone's blowing up with investors asking if you're distracted. Damien's playing dirty and he's good at it. Nia stopped pacing, her eyes blazing. Let them talk. The Mustang's our answer. We nail Miami and this, she jabbed a finger at the tablet, becomes noise. Malcolm crossed his arms. And what about us? You gonna pretend this doesn't hit harder because of whatever's going on here? He gestured between them, his voice softer now. I'm not just fighting for a job, Nia. I'm fighting for you. Her expression softened, but before she could respond, Reggie burst in his face. Pale. Hayes, you got a call from your kid's school. Sounds serious. Malcolm's heart dropped. He grabbed his phone, already moving. What's going on? It's about Jaden, Reggie said. They wouldn't tell me more. Malcolm's truck roared through Chicago traffic, his knuckles white on the wheel. Jaden's school, a brick building in Hyde Park, was a 20-minute drive, but it felt like forever. His mind raced. Was Jaden hurt? Sick? The school's principal, Ms. Dawson, had sounded urgent, and Malcolm's gut screamed trouble. He pulled into the lot, spotting a black Bentley parked out front. His blood ran cold. Only one person rolled in a car like that. Inside the principal's office, Jaden sat in a too-big chair, his sketchbook clutched to his chest. His brown eyes were wide, confused, but he wasn't hurt. Malcolm exhaled relief, flooding him, until he saw the man standing nearby. Damien Walsh, in a crisp navy suit, his smile as smug as ever. Mr. Hayes, Damien said, his voice dripping with fake warmth. Took you long enough? Malcolm ignored him, kneeling in front of Jaden. You okay, lil' man? Jaden nodded, his voice small. Yeah, but they said something about you not being my dad anymore. Malcolm's vision tunneled. He stood facing Damien, his fists clenched. What the hell is this, Ms. Dawson? A stern woman with graying hair cleared her throat. Mr. Hayes, Mr. Walsh has filed an emergency petition questioning your parental fitness. He claims your recent publicity and unstable circumstances pose a risk to Jaden. Malcolm's heart pounded. Unstable. I'm his father. I've raised him alone for 5 years. This is bullshit. Damien stepped closer, his voice low, meant for Malcolm alone. The press paints a messy picture, Hayes. A mechanic caught in a scandal linked to a failing CEO with a juvenile record to boot. Courts don't like messy. Malcolm's fists shook. He'd had a minor run-in as a teen. Joyriding, nothing serious. Expunged years ago, but Damien had dug it up. You think you can take my kid? He growled. You're out of your damn mind. Damien's smile didn't waver. I don't need to take him. I just need to make your life hell. How long can you fight me when you're too busy saving your son? Jaden's voice broke through, trembling. Dad, don't let him win. Malcolm turned, seeing the fear in his son's eyes. He knelt again, pulling Jaden into a hug. Nobody's taking you from me, Jay. I promise. His voice was steady, but inside he was raging. This wasn't about custody. It was Damien flexing his power, hitting Malcolm where it hurt most. Ms. Dawson shifted uncomfortably. We'll schedule a hearing, Mr. Hayes. For now, Jaden can go home with you. Malcolm didn't look at Damien as he took Jaden's hand and walked out. In the truck, Jaden was quiet, his sketchbook open to a drawing of a car with Dad plus me scrawled on it. You're not gonna lose me, right? He asked. Never. Malcolm set his throat tight. Not ever back at Apex. Malcolm found Nia in the garage, her sleeves rolled up, tinkering with the Mustang's wiring. The sight of her fierce, focused, unafraid, calmed the storm in his chest, if only a little. She looked up, sensing his mood. What happened? He told her everything, his voice raw. Damien's not just coming for you, Nia. He's coming for my kid. He's trying to break me. Nia's face darkened, her hands curling into fists. That son of a bitch. He's doing this to weaken us both. Malcolm stepped closer, his voice low. I need to know you're all in, Nia, because if we're fighting this together, I can't do it halfway, not with Jaden on the line. She met his gaze, her eyes fierce but vulnerable. I'm in, Malcolm, but I need to know. You trust me? This. She gestured to the garage. The Mustang, them. It's not just business. Not anymore. He exhaled, the weight of her words sinking in. I trust you, but Damien's got me questioning everything. What if I'm not enough for Apex for you for Jaden? Nia grabbed his hand, her grip firm. You're enough. You've been enough since the day you fixed my car and didn't ask for a dime. Don't let him make you forget that. Their eyes locked, and for a moment the world shrank to just them. But the moment was cut short by Zoe bursting in, her phone in hand. You all done with the heart-to-heart because I've got something? Malcolm raised an eyebrow. What now? Zoe grinned, holding up a USB drive, Damien's dirty laundry. Bank records, offshore accounts, stock manipulation, enough to make the SEC drool. I've been digging since that Tribune hit piece. This is our ammo. Nia's eyes lit up. Zoe, you're a genius. Don't I know it? Zoe said, tossing her braids. But here's the catch. Damien's got eyes everywhere. We use this. We gotta be smart. Miami's your shot, but it's also his. Malcolm took the USB, his jaw set. Then we make sure he crashes and burns. That night, Malcolm sat in his apartment, Jaden asleep with his sketchbook open. The USB sat on the table, a ticking bomb. Damien's move against Jaden had changed everything. This wasn't just about Apex or Nia anymore. It was personal. Malcolm thought of Nia's words, her faith in him, and felt a fire kindle. He wasn't just a mechanic, not anymore. He was a fighter, and he'd be damned if Damien took anything else from him. He dialed Nia's number. We're doing this, he said when she picked up Miami, the Mustang. All of it. Damien's going down. Her voice was steady, but he heard the smile in it. Good, because I'm not losing Hayes. And neither are you. The Miami sun blazed over Ocean Drive, turning the Art Deco facades into a kaleidoscope of pastel pinks and blues. Inside the Fontainebleau Hotel, the air was cool, scented with orchids and ambition. The grand ballroom was a vision of opulence, marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and a crowd of tuxedo-clad investors sipping champagne. At the center of it all was Apex Motors' masterpiece, a reimagined 1967 Mustang Fastback, its sapphire blue paint gleaming under spotlights, its hybrid engine a whisper of the future. Malcolm Hayes stood beside it, feeling like a fish out of water in a tailored Oswald Boateng suit Nia had insisted he wear. The fabric hugged his broad shoulders, and though he'd never admit it, he felt damn good. 2 weeks had passed since Damien Walsh's gut-punch move, filing a petition to challenge Malcolm's custody of Jaden. The Chicago Tribune hit piece had done its damage, sowing doubt among Apex's board and investors. But Malcolm and Nia had fought back, pouring everything into the Mustang. With Zoe Carter's USB drive as their ace, they were ready to take Damien down at the Miami auction, where Apex was pitching to secure a game-changing contract with Elite Racing, a powerhouse in high-performance restorations. Winning meant Apex's expansion. Losing meant Damien's victory. Malcolm adjusted his cufflinks, his silver ring, his mother's keepsake, catching the light. Nia stood a few feet away, commanding the room in a crimson gown that flowed like liquid fire. Her curls were swept up, revealing the curve of her neck, and her eyes sparkled with a mix of determination and nerves. She caught his gaze, offering a small private smile that steadied him. They'd been through hell to get here, and tonight was their shot. Zoe sidled up, her gold dress shimmering as she handed Malcolm a glass of bourbon. "You clean up nice, Hayes," she said, her Harlem accent laced with mischief. "But don't get too comfy. Damien's in the back looking like he's ready to start a war." Malcolm glanced over, spotting Damian Walsh in a black tux, his smile as sharp as a blade. Beside him was Erica Stone, her sleek bob and cold eyes scanning the room. "Let him try," Malcolm said, his voice low. "We've got the upper hand." Zoe raised an eyebrow. "You sure about that? My sources say he's been cozying up to Elite Racing's CEO. If he sways them, that contract's gone." Nia joined them, her heels clicking on the marble. "Then we make sure he doesn't." "The Mustang's our edge. It's not just a car. It's a statement." Malcolm nodded, but his gut churned. The USB drive tucked in his jacket pocket felt like a grenade. Zoe's evidence of Damian's stock manipulation could ruin him, but using it was a risk. If they misstepped, Damian could spin it, painting Apex as desperate. Malcolm pushed the thought aside. Tonight they had to focus on the pitch. The auction began, the room buzzing as collectors bid on rare cars, a '59 Corvette, a '70 Plymouth Barracuda, each fetching millions. When the Mustang rolled onto the stage, the crowd hushed. Nia stepped to the podium, her voice clear and commanding. "Ladies and gentlemen, Apex Motors doesn't just restore cars, we reimagine them. This 1967 Mustang Fastback blends vintage soul with cutting-edge tech, a hybrid V8 carbon fiber accents, and a design that honors the past while racing toward the future. This is what we do. Build legacies." The crowd murmured, impressed. Malcolm took the stage next, his heart pounding. He wasn't a public speaker, but Nia had insisted he tell his story. He cleared his throat, his Chicago drawl grounding him. "I grew up in Englewood, sketching cars in a notebook, dreaming of building something that mattered. Life knocked me down. Lost my wife, fought to raise my son alone. But cars, they kept me going. This Mustang isn't just metal and chrome. It's a second chance for me, for Apex, for everyone who's ever been counted out. That's what we're offering. Elite Racing, a vision, not just a vehicle." The room erupted in applause, and Malcolm caught Nia's eye, her smile proud. Elite Racing's CEO, a silver-haired woman named Carla Voss, nodded thoughtfully. Malcolm stepped off, adrenaline pumping. They'd landed the pitch, but Damian wasn't done. As the crowd mingled, he approached Carla, his charm on full display. Malcolm overheard him, his voice smooth as silk. "Apex is flashy, sure, but they're unstable. That new hire, a PR stunt I can offer. Elite a safer bet." Malcolm's blood boiled, but Nia grabbed his arm. "Not here," she whispered. "We stick to the plan." The plan hit a snag an hour later. Zoe, working her network, pulled Malcolm and Nia into a quiet corner. "Bad news," she said, her voice tight. "Damian's got a mole in Elite Racing. He's promised them a sweetheart deal if they ditch Apex." Carla's wavering. Malcolm's jaw clenched. "Then we use the USB. End this now." Nia hesitated, her eyes searching his. "If we go public with it, Damian will retaliate. He's got lawyers who'll bury us in court." Zoe crossed her arms. "Girl, he's already burying you. That custody stunt with Jaden. The Tribune. He's not playing chess. He's playing scorched earth." Malcolm pulled the USB from his pocket. "Nia, we've got one shot. Let me handle it." She nodded, her trust in him unspoken but clear. "Do it, but be careful." Malcolm found Damian in a private lounge, the room all leather and dim lighting, a bottle of Macallan on the table. Erica stood nearby, her expression unreadable. Damian looked up, his smile mocking. "Hayes, come to beg for mercy." Malcolm didn't flinch. He tossed the USB onto the table, its clatter loud in the quiet. "That's your mercy bank. Records offshore, accounts, stock manipulation. Enough to send the SEC knocking." Damian's smirk faltered his eyes. flicking to the drive. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Malcolm leaned in, his voice steel. "Here's the deal. You drop the custody petition back off Apex and stay the hell away from Nia and my kid. Do it, or by tomorrow every news outlet in the country gets a copy of this. Your empire's done." Erica shifted her voice low. "Damien? He's not kidding. I've seen Zoe Carter's work. She doesn't miss." Damien's jaw tightened, his facade cracking. He picked up the USB, turning it over in his hand. "You think you've won?" he said, his voice low. "You're a nobody. Hayes always will be." Malcolm smirked, unfazed. "Funny. That's what they said about Nia, too. Look at her now." Silence stretched heavy and tense. Then Damien exhaled, picking up his phone. "Call off the petition," he said to his lawyer, his eyes never leaving Malcolm. "We're done here." Malcolm didn't wait for more. He turned and walked out, his heart pounding but his head high. Checkmate. Back in the ballroom, the mood had shifted. Carla Voss approached Nia, her expression warm. "Your Mustang's a masterpiece. Miss Bennett and Mr. Hayes' story. It sealed the deal. Elite Racing signing with Apex." Nia's smile was radiant, but her eyes found Malcolm across the room. A silent thank you. The crowd cheered as the contract was announced, and Damien slipped out his face, a mask of barely contained rage. Malcolm felt a weight lift, but he knew this wasn't the end. Not quite. That night, Malcolm and Nia flew back to Chicago, the city's lights welcoming them home. They ended up at her penthouse, the same one where their story had begun. The balcony was quiet, the hot tub bubbling softly, John Coltrane's saxophone weaving through the air. Nia poured 2 glasses of bourbon, her gown swapped for a silk robe that made Malcolm's pulse race. "We did it," she said, handing him a glass. "Elite's on board. Damien's out." Malcolm took the glass, his fingers brushing hers. "Yeah, but it was too close. If Zoe hadn't come through." Nia laughed, the sound light and free. "Zoe's a menace. Remind me to send her a case of wine." He grinned, but his eyes were serious. "Nia, I meant what I said in Napa. I'm in this for you, for us. But I need to know you're not going to pull back again." She set her glass down, stepping closer. "I'm done running. Malcolm, you showed me I don't have to." The air crackled, and Malcolm didn't hesitate. He pulled her into him, their kiss, hungry, urgent, a release of everything they'd held back. Her robe slipped to the floor, and he lifted her, carrying her to the hot tub. The warm water enveloped them, steam curling as their bodies pressed together. Nia's hands roamed his chest, her moans soft against his lips as they moved, the city's glow fading behind their rhythm. It was raw, passionate, a reclaiming of what they'd fought for. When they collapsed against each other, breathless, Nia rested her head on his shoulder. "Your trouble, Hayes," she murmured, her voice teasing. He chuckled, kissing her forehead. "Good kind, though." The next morning, Malcolm got the call. Damien's petition was officially withdrawn. Jaden was safe. He found Nia in her office, going over the Elite contract. "It's over," he said, relief flooding him. "Jaden's mine, no question." Nia stood, pulling him into a hug. "I knew you'd win." He held her, feeling the future shift. "We've got Miami in the bag. Damien's gone." "What's next?" She smirked, her eyes sparkling. "We keep building Hayes. The Mustang's just the start." Malcolm nodded, the fire in him burning brighter. They'd beaten the odds, but he knew the road ahead was wide open, and he was ready to drive it with her. The Chicago summer had given way to a crisp fall, the city's trees blazing with reds and golds. At Apex Motors' high-tech garage in the Loop, the scent of polished chrome and engine oil filled the air, a familiar comfort for Malcolm Hayes. He stood beside the '67 Mustang, fastback, its sapphire blue paint gleaming under the LED lights. The car was more than a project now. It was a symbol of everything he and Nia Bennett had fought for. A month had passed since their triumph at the Miami auction, since they'd sent Damian Walsh packing with his tail between his legs. The elite racing contract was signed. Apex was expanding, and Jaden was safe. For the first time in years, Malcolm felt like he could breathe. He wiped down the Mustang's hood, his silver ring, his mother's keepsake, catching the light. The garage was quieter today. Most of the techs gone for the weekend. Reggie, the once skeptical lead technician, had even clapped Malcolm on the shoulder yesterday, grumbling, "Not bad, Chicago." "You're all right." Coming from Reggie, that was damn near a love letter. The clack of heels on the glass floor pulled Malcolm from his thoughts. Nia Bennett leaned against the doorway, her tailored blazer swapped for a leather jacket and jeans that hugged her curves. Her curls were loose, framing her face, and her smile was pure mischief. "You keep polishing that car like it's going to tell you the meaning of life," she said, her Chicago accent warm and teasing. Malcolm grinned, tossing the rag aside. "Maybe it will. This thing's seen more drama than a soap opera." She laughed, stepping closer, her jasmine perfume mixing with the garage's grit. "Or maybe you're just getting soft on me, Hayes. All this corporate life turning you into a sentimental fool." He arched an eyebrow, closing the distance between them. "Soft? Nah. But I'm starting to like having something beautiful in my life." His voice dropped, his eyes locked on hers, and the air crackled with the same heat that had sparked their first kiss. Nia's lips curved, her gaze playful but soft. "Careful, Malcolm. Keep talking like that, and I might start thinking you're serious." "Oh, I'm dead serious," he said, his hand brushing her waist. She didn't pull away, and for a moment they just stood there, the Mustang humming softly beside them, a witness to their journey. The past month had been a whirlwind, with the elite, racing deals secured. Apex was buzzing new contracts, new hires, a second garage in the works. Malcolm had settled into his role as manager, earning the team's respect, one fixed engine at a time. The Chicago Tribune scandal had faded, replaced by glowing headlines about Apex's Miami triumph. Damian Walsh had gone quiet, his empire under SEC scrutiny thanks to Zoe Carter's USB drive. Malcolm didn't trust the silence, but for now the war was won. Jaden was the real victory. The custody petition was dead, and Malcolm had taken his son to their favorite diner in Englewood to celebrate splitting a plate of wings and fries. Jaden had grinned, his sketchbook open to a new drawing, a futuristic Mustang with Dad and Nia scrawled on it. "You think Nia's gonna be around like forever?" he'd asked, his voice hopeful. Malcolm had ruffled his hair. "We'll see, lil' man. But she's pretty cool, right?" "The coolest," Jaden said, and Malcolm's heart swelled. Now, as he and Nia stood in the garage, Malcolm felt the weight of that question. Forever was a big word, but with Nia, it didn't scare him. Not anymore. "Zoe." Carter's voice broke the moment, echoing from the garage entrance. "Y'all gonna stand there making googly eyes or help me with these boxes?" She strutted in her braids, swinging, carrying a stack of files for the new garage. Trey Brooks trailed behind his Hawaiian shirt, as loud as ever, grinning like he'd just won the lottery. "Zoe." "You're a lawyer, not a mover," Malcolm teased, grabbing a box. "What's with the heavy lifting? Somebody's got to keep this place running while you two flirt." Zoe shot back, winking at Nia. "Besides, I'm billing Apex triple for this." Nia laughed, taking a box from Trey. "You're gonna bankrupt me, Zoe. Worth every penny." Trey said, tossing Malcolm a soda man. "This place is wild. You went from fixing clunkers to running a car empire. I'm proud of you, bro." Malcolm popped the can, his grin sheepish. "Still feels like a dream. Any day now, I'm expecting to wake up back at Hayes Auto Nah," Trey said, clapping his shoulder. "This is your lane now. Own it. That evening, Malcolm picked up Jaden from school, the kid bounding into the truck with his usual energy. "Guess what, Dad?" Jaden said, tossing his backpack in the back. "We had career day and I told everyone, you build the coolest cars ever. Said you're kind of a big deal." Malcolm chuckled, raising an eyebrow. "Kind of? I'm at least half a big deal." Jaden smirked, his eyes twinkling. "Nia's the real boss, though." "Everybody knows that, smart kid," Malcolm said, ruffling his hair. "You're not wrong." As they drove through Chicago, the city's lights flickering to life, Malcolm felt a shift. Jaden was growing up fast, and the weight of single fatherhood was lighter now, shared with Nia in ways he hadn't expected. She'd started joining them for pizza nights, laughing at Jaden's bad jokes and helping with his sketches. It wasn't just a fling. It was family, messy and real. Nia had invited them to her favorite spot that night, a secluded overlook just outside the city where the skyline glittered against a star-streaked sky. Malcolm pulled up in the Mustang, its engine purring as Jaden hopped out, clutching his sketchbook. Nia was already there, leaning against a wooden railing, a blanket spread out with a picnic of fried chicken, cornbread, and sweet tea. Soul food under the stars. "Fancy meeting you here," Malcolm said, sliding out of the car. He wore his usual jeans and a fitted Henley, the silver ring glinting on his hand. Nia grinned, her leather jacket catching the moonlight. "Thought we could use a break from the city. Plus, Jaden's got to see the best view in Illinois." "It's awesome," Jaden said, already sketching the skyline. "Can we come back every week?" "Deal," Nia said, tossing him a piece of cornbread. "But only if you share the chicken." They settled onto the blanket, the breeze carrying the scent of pine and earth. Malcolm watched Nia and Jaden banter, his heart full. This was what he'd been fighting for. Not just a job, not just survival, but moments like this, where the world felt right. As Jaden ran off to chase fireflies, Nia turned to Malcolm, her expression thoughtful. "You ever think about what's next? For us?" He took her hand, his fingers lacing through hers. "Used to be that question scared the hell out of me. Felt like the future was just another fight waiting to knock me down. But now," he squeezed her hand, his voice steady, "I'm not afraid anymore, Nia. Because whatever's coming, I know it's with you." Her eyes softened, a slow, breathtaking smile spreading across her face. "You sure about that, Hayes?" He chuckled, pulling her closer. "Sure as I am about this car." He nodded at the Mustang, its curves glinting in the starlight. "You're my ride or die, Nia." She leaned into him, her forehead resting against his. "Good, because I'm not going anywhere." They kissed, slow and deep, the kind of kiss that carried promises. The city sparkled below the stars above, and for a moment time stopped. Malcolm knew this wasn't the end of their challenges. Life never stayed easy. But with Nia by his side, he was ready for anything. A month later, Malcolm, Nia, and Jaden stood outside Apex's garage, the Mustang idling softly, its engine a low, steady heartbeat. They were prepping for a road trip, a chance to see the country, just the three of them. The garage was bustling new techs working on a fleet of classics, the air alive with possibility. Apex was thriving, and Malcolm was at the heart of it, designing cars that blended old soul with new fire. Jaden peeked out from the Mustang's passenger seat, his sketchbook open. "Are we going or what?" he called, his grin impatient. Nia laughed, twirling the keys. "Hold your horses, kid. We've got a long road ahead." Jaden rolled his eyes. "Duh, it's a road trip. But can I drive yet?" Malcolm smirked, sliding into the driver's seat. "Dream on, lil man. Maybe when you're taller than the steering wheel." Nia settled beside him, her hand resting on his thigh. "How about we take turns?" she said, her voice teasing. "I'm not bad behind the wheel, you know." Malcolm arched an eyebrow, handing her the keys. Show me what you got, Bennett. But if you scratch my baby, we're gonna have words. Your baby, Nia said, feigning offense. This is my Mustang, Hayes, Jaden piped up from the back. Y'all are so mushy, just drive already. They burst out laughing, the sound filling the car. Malcolm revved the engine, feeling the raw power beneath him. With Nia beside him and Jaden's laughter in the back, he pressed the gas, the Mustang roaring onto the open road. Chicago's skyline faded in the rearview, but Malcolm wasn't looking back. For the first time, he wasn't running from something, he was running toward it. The road stretched ahead, full of curves and possibilities. Malcolm glanced at Nia, her curls dancing in the wind, and knew this was just the beginning. They'd fought their battles, won their wars, and found something worth holding on to. Something real, something forever. Wow, what a ride. Malcolm, Nia, and Jaden's journey was full of heart grit, and the kind of love that beats the odds. If you've been with us from that steamy penthouse kiss to this open road finale, thank you for riding along. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next epic story. Drop a comment below. What was your favorite moment? The Miami showdown, the Napa kiss, or Jaden stealing the show? Let us know where you're watching from, and let's keep the conversation going.